Hey everybody, how's it going?
Good.
Thanks for coming. Appreciate y'all being here again. We'll go over a few things as usual and then we'll get on to our normal functions. So today's agenda, of course we got our announcements. We're going to talk a little bit about our fish swap, April 2nd. We're really excited about. We've got the building in place and got everything ready to go, so we've got tables available, but I'll touch on that more in a minute. Our club logo, I know a few of you have already seen it, and the shirts we're possibly working on, but there's some new faces, so we'll go over that a little bit again. Our bio, we've got a special guest today, Sean Peck. If you guys haven't heard his name, he's been in the business for quite a while and made a lot of videos. Really appreciate him coming out. And then a lot of you I'm sure is familiar with, we've got our raffle drawing at the end. We hand out the tickets and we'll pull and call your number, and then we'll just come up one at a time and you get to pick one thing off the table, and usually we've got plenty left over, so at the end it's just kind of a free-for-all what's left. Alright, so our mission statement, I'll go over it one more time, is to create an aquarium club of like-minded aquarists to discuss the aquarium hobby, learn from fellow aquarists and professionals, have aquarium-related events for members to exchange in fish and plants, promote the hobby beyond our group to encourage fish keeping within our community. I'm sure a lot of you see our banner contest. It's really been going well. We've had a lot of attention on it. This was our winner for this month. And so it's a free for all. Anybody's got a chance. Post your favorite picture on there, and whoever gets the most likes, you get to be our face for the month. We no meeting here. Our fish swap, we've got a separate building, so April the 2nd, if you show up here, you're going to be by yourself. Make sure you don't come here. It's going to be at the Fountain City Lions Club, and the address is on our page. And what we want to ask, if anybody has any ideas or anything like that, what do you want from this club? We're interested in hearing what you would like to see in the club. So if anybody has any ideas, we're still fairly new. This is our third meetup, and we're still trying to come up with things ourselves. You guys are just as capable as we are coming up with cool things. So does anybody have anything like they'd like to add in a meeting or see, or maybe any possibilities? If you don't like speaking up in front of a crowd, you can always reach out to one of us. Got me, Mitch, Jason, and JT's here tonight.
I'd like to see something on live plants.
Live
Just
plants?
anything.
Like a highlight maybe? Or?
Yeah, just anything maybe.
Okay, that's a good idea.
I'm sort of new to different varieties, or something.
Right, maybe like a spotlight.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. We've actually got, we plan on doing that with fish. We're doing a species spotlight, so we hadn't thought of adding a plant in there. That's a good idea.
So tonight's our first time with the species spotlight, something we want to do every meeting. And usually we'll try and, hopefully we'll have the species that actually raffle off. But we can add plants in there too. That'd be a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Has anybody else got any ideas or suggestions? Alright, like I said, if you have any ideas and you want to speak out, feel free to reach to one of us. We're always open or on the page. Alright, so our April fish swap, April 2nd, it's going to be on North Broadway Street. I'm sure maybe quite a few of you know where the Fountain City Club building is. If not, any of us can help you figure it out. And, GPS is pretty easy nowadays. It's our first official event other than the club meetup, so we're definitely excited about it. Come and buy, sell, trade fish, plants, and aquatic related goods. Come talk fish and meet local breeders and hobbyists. All are welcome and all proceeds go to the club. Entrance fee is $2, and if you want a full table, it's $20, or if you want a half table to split with somebody, it's $10. If anybody's interested in a table, you can talk to JT. He's been taking care of that, and we can get you set up. And then lastly, our new club logos. So this one right here in the middle, of course, y'all might have seen on the page. This is our club logo we decided on for now. And then we've got some different iterations that we've been talking about, maybe different types of shirts and things. You can see we've got one with the sun sphere to kind of incorporate Knoxville a little more and different things like that. We're hoping to really get going soon. And if anybody has any ideas for that as well, you can reach out. With that, I'm going to turn it over, and Mitch is going to give his bio.
Finally, right? I missed the first two meetings. Actually, on top of that, I missed our meeting where we got together for the first time here and toured the building too. So, COVID, right? It's been crazy. We've been sick every time. But yeah, my name's Mitch Norton. I'm from Knoxville. Gotta get in the frame. I'm from Knoxville. I actually live in Halls right now, so North Knoxvillian. And been keeping an aquarium for about 8 years now. Happily married for the last 17 years to my wife, Suzanne. We have 2 children. My daughters, Lexi and Paisley, they're 11 and 9. And I used them to get into the aquarium hobby. When I was little, my mom had an aquarium for a while and it didn't go very well. I remember when she got rid of it, when she got a mouthful of tank water. And when we had kids, I started talking about it. I was like, I'd like to have an aquarium. And, she wasn't on board at first. It took to the second child before I worked her down to the point where we got a aquarium. And it was a 10-gallon top fin from PetSmart, right? And so I'm down, I'm looking at, we walk in and we're going through and the girls are like, look, there's rainbow rocks. And I'm like, yeah, that's cute. And so I'm looking at some of the darker, I'm like, I can't decide between this one and the dark one. And my wife's like, wait a minute, this is for the kids. So the kids want the rainbow colored rocks. So yeah, my first tank was a princess tank. I had a little castle, it was cute. But it had platies, mollies, and mystery snail. And I took care of it. It was mine. The kids too young to take care of it. And really, really enjoyed it. Made a lot of mistakes. And eventually got to the point where I was able to change out the substrate to something more natural, which caused problems. You all probably may have experienced that. That can cause problems. And then I started trying live plants, and that led to more problems because lighting, fertilizer, things like that. I didn't know anything about that. So that drove me online. So I started looking online at information and just kind of learning about the hobby. And I had already been online to learn about the cycling your tank and stuff, but I still didn't know enough to keep from having to change water a lot in a 10-gallon tank in the beginning. But so spent a lot of time online following some of the fish tubers and Aquarium Co-op, Corey, and a lot of the stuff that I learned from there. And I would hear him talk about local fish club, his local fish club. I was like, Knoxville's a metro area. We got a lot of people. Surely we have a fish club. And when I got to look at it, I couldn't find one. And so that sent me to reaching out to a few people. I actually spoke with Sean about it, and he sent me to some people. And the more and more I looked into it, the more and more I realized one person can't do that. It's way too much work. And so I created a Facebook group, and I talked about, maybe one day being able to meet in person, but COVID happened. So that never came about. And then last year, some guys on one of the other Facebook groups started talking about maybe we should, start a club. And I was like, hey, I'd be willing to help out any way that I can, thinking that I just help out behind the scenes on a few things. Next thing I know, they've asked me to be, I'm secretary or whatever. So we'll put you to work if you want to be involved. And now I've got a 75-gallon tank. It is my only tank. I know Curtis joked about that during the first meeting. I didn't watch the video about how he was going to have to get me in more tanks. And he has tried. He's tried to drop tanks off, and I don't have space for them. I've got the 175. It's a planted tank. It's pretty heavily planted. I love it. I worked on it today, pulling duckweed out. I don't know how that got in there, but you all are welcome to take as much of it as you want, and I'm sure I'll have it every week. Did I have a second slide, or was that the only one? It's the second one. Yeah, I do sometimes fish. That's me and my girls and my dad. I like to be outdoors. Haven't got to do a lot of it in the last couple of years. But I'm really excited to have the group and the camaraderie that I already have with the board members. We talk on a regular basis, and then the communication on the Facebook page. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. I'm usually posting stupid stuff trying to get people to talk. You guys might have noticed that. Because I like the camaraderie. I like the communication. I like talking about fish stuff. So, and I like talking, obviously. What I want to see in the hobby, one of the things that kind of drives me to want to be part of the fish club and to see a fish club in the area is really outreach for those people who are just learning. I'm really enjoyed online helping people as they're going through the cycling, as they're going through plants, and I've made a ton of mistakes. I can definitely share some of that knowledge through trial and error, and so that's why I'm here. That's why I'm excited we're doing this. Glad to finally be here, and that's me.
All right, thanks.
All right. And if you guys are ever curious to see any of the other bios we give, me and JT and Jason and Curtis will all give our bios. We have a YouTube page, as he mentioned. You can see our previous videos, and Cassandra's gave her bio. With that, if anybody else would like to give their bio, you can reach out to one of us. We try to put in at least 1 to 2 every meeting. That way we can all get to know each other. All right, and I'd like to turn this over to Sean Peck. It's all you, buddy.
Thanks. Hello, everyone.
Go.
Thanks for coming out. I really appreciate it. So, by show of hands, if you guys watched the YouTube video, I don't want to assume. Okay, so everyone's been on YouTube looking for the knowledge and stuff that those folks have to impart, and there seems to be a great deal of diversity there, both in specific types of knowledge, like plants or fish or just cichlids or African cichlids. I mean, it gets really specific really quick. YouTube channels are, by and large, they're sort of like a magazine subscription. Let's see. So I started off like a lot of you did in the aquarium hobby. I was going through books and learning the different things. I'm still come from the book generation. Like computers, we had computers, but they were really terrible. And there was no internet. But as a kid, I'd had aquariums a couple of times, but my parents never really went to the trouble to learn how to keep them. So like a lot of people, I had that experience where it's like, I remember I had fish and then they were gone. they're running free on a farm somewhere, where they could run and be free. But, years later, I decided I wanted an aquarium again. I've always been into, I like to create little worlds. Like I like the whole idea of just like a whole ecosystem, and I saw some guppies that I really, really wanted, so I started doing the work to figure out like why that didn't work when I was a kid. And I learned about the nitrogen cycle, and I learned about all these things. I got a little 6-gallon tank and a couple of fish, and I asked the people at the store, well, how many fish can I put in this 6-gallon tank? They're like, 2? Little ones? I was like, really? I want more than that. And that's when the MTS kind of kicked in. I'm a little bit of a obsessive compulsive, I guess you might want to call it, a chronic shopper. And I'm really, really interested in things. When I get really interested in things, I just kind of focus in. So aquariums became my thing, and before I knew it, I had a house full of aquariums. Has that happened to you? Okay.
No.
So I'm in good company, right? I mean, right now I've toned it down a bit, and I have about 13 aquariums. I've discovered that it's better to keep maybe some higher maintenance aquariums that instead of more aquariums. Maybe just something I pay more attention to, a few really good aquariums. And I've started to get into that. But I went all through the whole, I've gone every aquarium on Craigslist, any aquarium that was on sale, anything I could get to someone to send me in the mail, I was all about it. And believe it or not, all of this happened well before YouTube was even a thing. We're talking, maybe this is about 13 years ago. And then I got into plants. So I started, it was like, wow, all these aquariums are a lot to maintain. Here, planted tanks, they don't even have to do water changes. That's what I heard, right? It was wrong, but to some degree. I mean, it depends. Like, I've almost gone all the way back around to thinking, I went to, Ed and I went to see L.R. Bretz. He had a house, he's selling it now, I guess, but he had a house that's full of aquariums. I mean, there's more aquariums than I've ever seen in a residential neighborhood anywhere. Not a one of them had a filter. Not a one of them had CO2 that I know of, I don't think. And when I asked him about water changes, it's like, I hadn't done that in a while. What the heck? What's going on? So So anyway, I started learning more and more about plants. And I started watching Dustin's fish tanks. And I think he was one of the first YouTubers I watched on a regular basis. And I thought, I could explain things like this. I've been in forums and trying to type out my thoughts and stuff, but I'm not good on the typewriter. Like, I'm really not good at writing things. I'm good at talking. I like to talk. I talk a lot. And I'm not scared of the camera. I mean, I grew up, I've been a photographer pretty much my whole life. I mean, I had a darkroom when I was little, like under the stairs and stuff. So I've always been in and around a camera. I've done it professionally too. And I've always wanted my own show. In fact, I went down the street here, like right across the way over there to the public broadcasting, and I was going to do a public broadcasting show about fish. And I talked to them, and I kind of went through their little class and stuff, and I was like, well, you'd be on a very specific schedule. If you had your video done by Monday at 2, you could get your schedule, and it'd be like 3 in the morning. So at 3 in the morning, I could talk to like whoever's in Knoxville and have that on. And I was thinking about Dustin and all these other things. I was like, well, they talk to the entire planet. I'd rather talk to them. I like to talk to Knoxville. I'd like to talk to everyone. So I started making videos, and eventually at Aquatic Marine, back before Kenny owned it, a long time ago, I bought this little fluval speck, and it's just a little 2-gallon tank. It was the first one that they made, and I thought it was really, really cool. But I already had about 20 aquariums around the house. So I brought it home, and I stuck it on a shelf, and it stayed there for 2 weeks. It was my plan. So then I was like, you know what, I'll make a video about setting this whole thing up, and I'll do unboxing, and I'll set it up and do the whole thing. And I got Kerrigan at the time. She's just real little, holding the camera. That's why the camera's doing this still. But Kerrigan holding the camera, filmed me setting up, unboxing this thing and setting it up, and Holly's like, you're setting up another aquarium? I was like, I've had this for weeks. It was right on the shelf. He didn't say anything about it then. So anyway, Forbidden Aquarium got set up, and then I put it up, and it came out pretty nice. Like, just some plants, real simple, especially by today's standards, but Fluval really liked it. And at the time, they didn't have their own YouTube page or even a website. They had something called the Fluval blog. So if you Google that specific product, Fluval Spec, and Peck and Spec, I think somehow I got like convolted there. So because I'm permanently attached to that product somehow. But they put it up. So if you went to go see the Fluval Spec, you ended up seeing my video. Then pretty soon, my videos, which had been an assortment of things, like from roller derby stuff and just weird things that I do around, became an aquarium channel just overnight, because that's what people want to see. And they kept asking more and more for it. So it's like, sure, I like talking about aquariums, and I just kept doing it. And 10 years later, here I am. There's a lot in between that, and there's been a lot of ups and downs to sharing like everything that you do in a hobby. You learn a lot, but you learn it in this sort of brutal way. You know what I mean? Because people online, they don't, half of them are rooting for you, half of them aren't. And they're gonna tell you things. Some people will lead you completely the wrong way, and some people will lead you completely the right way. And I'm just talking about through my comments section. So it's really difficult to know and navigate what's accurate. And you don't want to be someone, like I didn't set out to be really an expert in any of this. I just wanted to share my hobby. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I don't know all the scientific names of the fish or the plants. I just like to share my hobby, and I'm very creative. And what I've learned to do with aquariums is just show and tell. So I try a lot of different things. Some of them make sense, some of them don't later on, but I try to come back and let people know too. I mean, that's what's important. I mean, you've got to share the whole experience, That's why I have whole playlists that are only updates. Just all updates so you can see a project. I break it down into different segments, and then I show it 6 months later, and then a year later, and then years later, if it keeps going on. So there's been a number of different kind of lingering projects and stuff, and I think that that's really important. If you see someone set something up, but you don't see the end result of it, I mean, how do you know if it worked or not? I mean, that's the big thing, and that's what everybody wants to know. People that have been just infinitely successful, like if I could go back and just start over, you wouldn't know what I looked like. It'd just be some hands and some music. Or something. Because I gotta tell you, there's a lot of pressure when someone knows who you are. Food the Flower Horn is my idol. Like, I love that guy. And I think he only showed his face maybe a year ago. And he's infinitely huge. He's bigger than any of the fish tubers I've ever met, and I've met most of them. And he is, he got famous with the no CO2, no filter aquariums. It's usually just some hands and some music, but what makes it great is that his videos span, like sometimes months. Like he'll take a project, and the first minute that you're watching is all the stuff you saw before, but it's sort of a fast abridged version. So it's like, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this, and then it ends up here. Fantastic place to learn about no filter aquariums. Another one that's great is there's Frank's Betas. If you want to know where betas really come from, what it really looks like, watch this dude pull his pants up and wade around in these ponds. Maybe I'm a wimp. I don't think I could do that. My wife is always watching it when they go, no, I would not be in that. It's like, yeah, I probably wouldn't be there. They pull out some really crazy looking insects and stuff too. It's scary.
And water cobras.
Yeah, and water cobras and everything else. So there's a really huge variety of shows to watch. And when I put something out there, I want it to be something that's that kind of stands the test of time a little bit. So I try to do a lot of really basic stuff, like how to take care of plants, the type of different ways to do substrate, maybe a different fish. But a lot of times, like what I try to avoid is doing a book report. So I'm not going to just spend a whole week reading about this fish and then kind of robotically tell you about it. And I don't do top 10s or any of the other kind of popular things like that. So I don't know. I've been really fortunate to meet a lot of other people more recently, but for the first, 7 or 8 years, I had no friends on YouTube. I had no friends in Knoxville. I didn't know any other hobbyist. I was talking to Father Fish about this, and he said, it's a hermit's hobby. You could do this hobby almost completely at home alone. I mean, that is fine. People did that for years, and they used to correspond, I hear some of the old fellas telling me about writing letters back and forth and sending eggs, like killifish eggs and stuff back and forth in the mail. Like just, I can't imagine like not getting on, these days, instantaneous communication is just like way taken for granted. So yeah, it was you're speaking to a lot of people, but you're all alone. And so there's another one to compare things to. And the feedback you do get is usually through your comments section or answer videos or something like that. So it's really interesting. To finally have a club, I'm so thankful. I mean, you guys are asking like, what else would you do with this club? Well, I don't know. I think you're off to a great start. Bringing people together in real life to talk about this stuff is so valuable, so much more valuable than anything you get out of a video. Because you two, or you folks communicating together, sharing your stuff that you grow or whatever, all these things, they're so important. And I'd be happy to do whatever I can to help grow this this club, because it means a lot to me that it finally came around. Because I've spent a lot of years just kind of online alone screaming into the void. Look at my fish tanks and stuff. It's really neat to finally kind of come out in the public and see people. Going to conventions and stuff is okay, but it's so chaotic. It's so chaotic and stressful, and people, coming from, people coming at you from a lot of different angles and stuff. So this is actually pretty terrific. So, do any of you have any questions about anything that maybe you've seen or from other people? I've talked to almost everyone, so I'll tell you all their secrets.
Say, I found you were one of the first YouTubers I actually found, you and Rachel O'Leary. So
Yeah.
I was looking for nano fish and planted tanks. You and Rachel were the first ones that popped up.
Oh, that's cool. Rachel and I's taste in fish is very closely aligned.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how many times I've been just standing in front of a fish tank and I'm like looking it up and I end up watching one of her videos to figure out if I can keep it alive or not, or just texting her. It's like, what is this thing? She's a extremely valuable resource for small fish and stuff.
And ponds.
And ponds.
So like, you talk about how long you've been in the game, and used to you didn't have the internet to search things. And I myself, I'm the type of guy, I literally listen to fish podcasts every day for like over a year. So I don't know how many hours I've accumulated. And I still feel like I can't get enough information. Like I feel like I don't have the answers. I can only imagine like how hard it would have been back then when you don't have all that information at your fingertips, just even trying to learn how to do the basic things.
Well, it wasn't so different than it is now. I mean, you encounter something that you want to know about, like you find a fish, and then you if you've got the name of it, then you can go find out more information. But it's changed a lot. It's so much easier to just suddenly know so many things.
Yeah, when I had tropical fish hobbyist subscriptions as a kid, reading articles put out by scientists, trying to figure out how to keep a fish alive. It's way over my head.
And you mentioned podcasts too. Actually, before I got into YouTube, like just before, my big thing was Pet Fish Talk. It's this podcast, these two older fellas from California, they were brothers. And one would just talk over the other one, completely terrible radio. But they always had really good information, and I got so much knowledge from them. And a lot of if you're not someone that likes to read a lot, or maybe you have a problem with that, then podcasts and videos and stuff, they kind of jump in there to help bring you up a little bit more. You can get lost into a lot. It's easy to see the ones that are just fluffy, where it's like, hey, look at this fish, I bought a fish. It's like, well, tell me what does it eat? How does it live? Is it dead now? What happened to it? So, I think it's kind of easy to spot all that stuff happening online, but we kind of lost a lot of information from the older generation that only wrote things down and stuff. And I've tried to bring scientists on to talk, biologists and stuff, and they really don't want anything to do with social media, and I can't say I blame them. Diana Wallstead is an interview I've been trying to get for a long, long time, but she just won't do it. She did a podcast a while back, that's why I thought I had hope. And it's a fascinating podcast too. But I haven't been able to really get many more than like Dr. Novak. Kevin Novak came on and talked to me, and boy, there's a lot of opinions about what he does. It turned out to be a really volatile subject that I didn't really realize was such a big deal to so many people.
So there are many avenues to success in this hobby, and everybody thinks theirs is the right way.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is, you can get there so many different ways, and it's more about what's optimal. There's an optimization there. it's when athletes compete against each other, they don't win by large margins usually. It's some small little bit of extra that they got that the other person didn't have. And we are in competition with one another. I mean, for the most part, probably. I don't know. Maybe some of you are. But we're not in competition with one another. We're just trying to help everybody. So it shouldn't be a big deal to try different things. But people feel how they feel about stuff, and that's how it goes. A big part, if you wanted to do YouTube and share your hobby, there's only maybe just a couple of things to keep in mind. I actually made a pro and con list. Let's see. You get to explain things without using the written language. I don't know, for me that's huge. I just get tired of talking. The forums bore me to death. The con is there are always more questions than you can answer. So it doesn't matter how informative your video is, you forgot to mention something. For me, it's always the dimensions of the aquarium. In metric. Because the thing about talking to the world is they have different things than you do. Yeah, you get to speak to the whole world at once. Your worldview, but the con will be your worldview will be challenged, which can either be a positive or a negative thing. But a lot of people don't survive it. And what I mean by that is YouTube can easily drive you crazy, and especially if you're successful. Like I've met so many people, and it's funny. I put a lot of people on a pedestal. There's a lot of these folks that, man, I watch them so much. Like I spent so much of my life because when you watch someone in your living room, you feel like maybe you know them, and then you walk up to them and you realize, oh, they have no idea who I am. I feel like we've had dinner together like 20 times, and yet you don't know me now. What's wrong? You can't see the other way through the TV. Well, they're all just people, and they're all just as damaged and miserable as you are. So don't ever be afraid to go talk to one of those fellas or ladies. They're for the most part really terrific people. Like it's been a real pleasure to really get to know my fellow, because it's kind of like when you make videos and you like fish, and you make videos about fish, it's like you got two hobbies. You got a lot in common, you know. So I think that's kind of really spawned a lot of camaraderie and stuff. The con, because there's always a con though, is that YouTube gives you all this information, a lot of metrics, like a lot of measurements, like how many views, thumbs up, thumbs down, all those things. All of those are measurements that people use to kind of develop a hierarchy, and I don't know. YouTube has this kind of false value where if you've got a lot more people watching you, somehow that your opinion's worth more sometimes or less, but that's never the case. In fact, if you subscribe to people on YouTube that you like, there's a home page and there's a subscriptions page. If you go to the subscription page, you'll see stuff that you've chosen to see. If you go to the home page, that's an algorithm pointed directly at your mind to tell you what to watch. So just keep that in mind. I'm happy to show up there if I do, but I think a lot of people, if they just go look at their subscriptions when you go to look for fish tube stuff to watch, because YouTube might throw stuff out. And I think a lot of people miss things because YouTube thought you might like this other one better. So it's going to throw you that. And there is a certain aspect to it where it feels like, some people got successful and just pulled the ladder up behind them. And it's hard to break through. But it really just is a matter of persistence. I've been doing this for 10 years, maybe 11 years now. And it's been real up and down. And I haven't been consistent, except that I'm always making a video. But I mean, it went from I'll make one a month. And then I think in 2015, I decided to do one a week and try that. I really went for it for about till about 2019 or so, and then I just started getting tired. I'll still do one a week, and I try to like throw it out there and stuff, but I'm not looking to do this like as a full-time job. I mean, it would be cool. It'd be real cool, but it's not always viable. Like, you can't make that your goal. And you can't, my big thing for me is like, I found like I was setting up aquariums to have stuff to talk about. And that's not the reason to do it, you know? And it's not like I didn't take any worse care of the fish that I got and stuff, but I found more and more of my life is just like maintaining these things so I have content. And I decided that sometime around last year, it all kind of hit me. And I decided that I'm going to tone it down a little bit and kind of reset and get back into what this hobby really means to me. And it's like keeping pretty little fish that I like, making little worlds. Love to make little worlds. I love small things. And what I quickly discovered is that the smaller the tank is, the less appropriate it is. So now I'm like, oh, well, terrariums. No one cares about bugs. You put isopods in there, then no, I've got a little world for them. You know, but they won't mind so much. But I found a kind of a nice medium size, like these 30-gallon tanks, these 25-gallon tanks and stuff like that. You can do a lot with them, and the fish don't seem upset. Grow lots of plants, take care of this smaller thing. I tried my 210. It's still going and stuff, but boy, big tanks, big problems to me. I'm gonna reset it, like try again, try to make it great. But boy, right now it's just like it's a hard one to do. Basically, having to like crawl all the way down in there, scraping things with credit cards, so you don't get scratches all over the glass. Yeah, it's been a quite a huge adventure, and I'm happy to be able to share it with the world, and I really appreciate you guys listening to me ramble on about it here. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to reach out to me. Thanks.
Sean, much appreciated. Thank you. All right, so this is something new that we're going to be doing. Try and do this kind of like maybe transition from the bios into this species spotlights. So one species that we're looking at tonight is the Julidochromis transcriptus, or mass Julies. There's about 7 different subspecies of Julidochromis. The one I guess the 2 that I see the most are the transcriptus, and then they have Dickfeldies too. And those are the 2 that I keep. They're fun little fish. Has anyone ever kept Julies? No?
I have many years ago.
Okay. Yeah, they're very entertaining little fish. Now, you're going to sit there and maybe get like 6 or 12, and then you're going to put them in an aquarium, a little 25-gallon aquarium, and you're not going to see them. They hover around rocks. They're almost like a goby, if you know what gobies do and stuff. But they do create their own little territories. They're kind of like a shell-dwelling cichlid. They're from Lake Tanganyika. And when I first got into these, I met up with a guy because I was getting frontosa from a guy in Granger County. And he breeds those, and he had a bunch of these, and he said, yeah, you have a bunch of rocks and plants and stuff in there, and then all of a sudden you'll have 200. And it's like, no lie. If you have big aquariums and you throw some of these guys in there, there's plenty of hiding spaces, they can just breed uncontrollably on those. So they're like a little rock guppy, I'm not calling them. But they're definitely an interesting fish. As far as keeping, they're really not that aggressive. They don't, control the water, the main water volume so much. They're more just kind of to their own little areas. They do really good with breeding just because they don't eat the young. They seem to protect them really well. So, does anybody have any questions? They're pretty fun little fish as far as, parameters and stuff, temperatures, so. You can sit there and have high pH with like crushed corals and stuff you can put in the aquarium. But then also they'll do just fine with what's coming out in this local region area and stuff like that. So And then the main thing is their temperament. They're really not that mean or aggressive fish unless you've got a breeding pair and they're in their own little hole, and then like they'll defend that hole pretty aggressively, but they won't go out and attack and chase other fish and beat them up. So, all right, well.
And there's some on the table.
Yes, yeah. So I brought 6 in today, just a little small group. Get your mega group started. Whoever wins it.
Yeah, so if you're interested in them and you have some questions,
Yeah.
take a good time. Either right now or once we get started.
Yeah. Whoever wins it. All right, and then so we'll just go ahead and start the drawing. Also want to throw out there, don't forget, if you can, any donations are always welcome for the club.
Sorry, I was looking for the tickets.
Tickets over here.
Okay, thank you.
And then what we do, we have multiple fish species, a lot of different plant trimmings and stuff. I've also seen some look like inverts over there, snails and stuff, as well as API products. So
And some cultures.
and some what?
Cultures.
Cultures, all right.
So we are cultured.
Just be sure.
While we're doing the raffle, feel free to talk amongst yourselves. It's kind of time we take to meet everybody, and we'll craft and talk fish. So feel free to get up, move around, just listen for your numbers so you don't miss your shot.